Hello, I would like to welcome you into my studio. This is the first time we're meeting in my studio. This is the MoonBound podcast, and I'm your host, Julia. This is a podcast about all things fiber. We'll talk about knitting, crocheting, spinning, some sewing today. We're also going to have a quick catch up with me because it's been a while since I've done a face-to-face chatty kind of video. Hoping to do a few more of those in the future because when I was putting this together, it's really long. I have lots of things to talk about. And I don't want it to be a dragging kind of experience for you. I really appreciate all of those people who have checked out my video and talked to me about it, given me some tips and advice and suggestions. I really appreciate you coming back and checking me out again. I know that there's lots of other videos out there, lots of other podcasts talking about basically the same kinds of things, and there's only so much time in a day. So thank you for joining us. If this is your first time checking us out, welcome. I am going to get right into it with the knitting. And so the format's going to be, I'm going to talk about knitting. First, I'm going to talk about the projects that I'm working on and give you a little bit of background and some of my thoughts on what's going on, what I'm using, that sort of thing. And then I am going to show you the projects I've finished since the last time we chatted. Then I'm going to move on to the next topic. So, into the knitting. The first thing I want to show you is all the progress that I have made on my milk sweater. So I think the last time I showed you, I was about here. I know that I hadn't done any of these beautiful drop stitches. The drop stitches, sorry, that's clanky, were kind of nerve-wracking. I love how this feels. I love how it's knitting. I don't really love how the pattern was written. Now this is the Gear Cardigan, which was published in Interweave Knits in the spring of 2014. It's beautiful. Some of the spots are written kind of awkwardly or confusingly perhaps. They don't feel like they're going to work. Normally when you read a line in a pattern, at least I do. I try to figure out what am I expecting? What's going to happen in this knitting while I'm doing this so that if something goes awry, I was expecting it. Like, oh, that doesn't look anything like what I was expecting to have happen. And then when you get into a pattern that's doing drop stitches, to get to a line and have no clue what it is that the designer wants you to do, what is going to happen, really, really stressed me out. So I went on Ravelry and I looked to see if anyone else had commented on it, if anyone had some tips and suggestions. And it seems like lots of people got stuck on this spot and give up or made it into something else or set it aside. Lots of hibernating projects. But several women had managed to get it done. And the basic advice seemed to be just keep swimming. So that's what I'm going to tell you to do too, because it does in fact work. As strange as it seems, when you look at this line and go, huh? That doesn't match the way that I've seen patterns read, or written rather. It does work. Think about suddenly crocheting in the middle of your stretch of knitting, and all of a sudden, while it still doesn't make any sense as written, it works. So just keep swimming, or in this case, just keep knitting. Now this fiber is Vicky Howell's Craft in the Carol colorway. It is a 65-35 organic cotton and milk fiber blend, and I am knitting it on Knit Picks Interchangeables size 9 or 5.5 millimeters. I have kind of a small cable on here right now. It's probably a 40. They're not marked ever, so I am never quite sure. But when I try it on, I put it on a longer cable. It does appear like it's going to fit, and I really, really love this sweater. I'm hoping to get it done in time this spring to still wear it while the weather is still appropriate for a light sweater. If not, well, hopefully fall then. If you knew me before I started doing this, you would be surprised at all the socks that are happening right now. I kind of have a sock obsession all of a sudden, and I am blaming Mina from Expat Knitter. She puts out such lovely sock patterns, and so I joined her New York collection. It's a knit along she's doing through Ravelry and her own podcast, and I have cast on the first in her collection there. This is the Grand Central. Can't really see anything. I'm not giving anything away about this pattern other than it's a lovely pair of socks. So go to Ravelry, check her out, purchase her stuff. Really great stuff. This yarn that I'm using is a stash busting event. I, as I said last time, have taken this year to organize my stuff and try to fit it all in the studio. I failed. It's all out in the outer room. Which causes my husband to grumble a little bit. But if I get it a little bit more organized, maybe it'll be okay. In any event, I found a single ball of this yarn. This is Red Heart, Heart and Soul with Aloe. The colorway is called Watercolor Stripe. My notes are over here, that's why I'm looking over there. And it is a 70-30 superwash wool and nylon blend. And I figured out how I acquired it because it is not a colorway that really appeals to me, nor is it a yarn I would ordinarily purchase. A couple of years ago, there was a yarn store and beading store here in town, and she had a grab bag event, and people brought in yarn, and then she mixed it all up and made these grab bags, and everyone got to then purchase the grab bags based on whether or not they had participated or something. I don't remember all the rules. It was a while ago. So in my grab bag was this and one other ball of a yarn, a sock yarn that you'll see later in the podcast. Not today, in the future. I don't have two socks at once. I did get some really lovely yarn in that grab bag, so it wasn't a total loss, and these socks will be a present. So I am officially starting my Christmas knitting with this cast on. So that is the newest sock addition to my projects. Again, showing off another itty bitty tiny start is this start here, which you really can't see much of what I'm doing, but this is homespun yarn that I made myself. It's part of my breed study. This is the Falkland. I have no idea if that's focusing for you. I hope it is. One of the things that I discovered in working on my log cabin project is that I had lots of itty bitty balls left in various colors. Now, the log cabin I talked about last time, and it is a Afghan project that I am working on when we are up north at our property. And basically my initial plan was to do a lot of squares like this one here. That is based on the quilting pattern Log Cabin. And the center square, I'm going to move this down a little bit. The center square are all 6 inches wide. 6 is the number of people in my family, the heart of the home. Inside the log cabin is the center square, and the whole block is based on that. So I thought that even though nothing else is going to be consistent with this, because all of the yarns have different weights and different characteristics and different colors, which is based on me wanting to get familiar with certain different breeds. So this was just a way to use up an educational experience for myself while making something beautiful for my family. Because they are so different in size, and because I have so many little balls, I got it into my head this last time that I was going to try something new and I would alternate them. So that is where this square came in with the stripes, and the every 6 stitches there is a 2-stitch slip stitch patterning to it, and that allows me to use up some of my smaller bits. Let me see if I can get them all in my hand here. Smaller bits of yarns that are all hand spun. Some of them I dyed as well. The oranges and light browns in my hand here in particular are another hand spun project. It was just a test day. And so as I get more breed study done, I will do more squares. It's one of the things I do exclusively while I'm up at the property, and driving to and from if I don't have to drive. So I work on that up there. I am planning on bordering them all with some sort of cohesive color. Kind of leaning toward a green right now, but we'll see what happens. So that brings me to the end of the in-progress knitting I have right now, and brings us to the beginning of the finished objects section for knitting. The last chatty podcast we had, I was working on these socks. It is another, I found it in my stash. I only had enough for half a pair of socks, so I did some snooping and found another ball of it. It doesn't quite match. The change in lot is about right here, but because it's so close to the heel, I don't think it's particularly noticeable. This is Patton's Croy in Cascade. I did these on a 2.5 US or a 3mm needle, and I was adjusting the vanilla sock recipe from Expect Knitter to work with the size needles I had. Like I said, I went out and bought the Addy sock rockets that I'm using for my socks currently after I finished these. They're too big. I'm not going to fix that. They're not hugely too big. They're just kind of loose. And that is entirely my fault. That has nothing to do with Mina. I was concerned the whole time I was knitting them because I received this lovely pair of knit socks for Christmas that were too tight. Just a little too tight. Not so tight that you couldn't wear them, but just so that you were aware of the fact that they were too tight. So at every opportunity, every chance I had to make these just a little bit bigger, that's what I did. And it was a few too many opportunities. So these are my slipper socks. But I really love them. I love the yarn. I love the colorway. I love how squishy they are. And I love that they are the first pair of adult hand knit socks that I have finished. All right, I love them a little bit better. They fit a little bit better. I am calling this my Lime Stripes Vanilla Sock. It is, again, once you find something you like. This is the vanilla sock recipe. It has the German short row heel and the modified heel flap that she does and the rounded toe. I did screw up the Kitchener, so I have a garter Kitchener instead of a stockinette Kitchener. Oh well, doesn't bother me at all. This yarn was a project for my spinning guild. One of the ladies has some knitting machines, and she made us up a whole bunch of sock blanks. And then we got together and we had a nice lunch potluck, and we did some felting and a lot of chatting, and we also got around to dyeing these sock blanks that she had made up for us and had all prepped. I put a strong horizontal, they were narrow sock blanks, like this wide and very long. Put a strong horizontal in this teal color, and then did a strip down the side, and also in the teal, and then I repeated that kind of horizontal and then stripe in the lime green color and the light yellow color, and they blended a little bit more, but there was a pretty good striping going on in both the yellow and the green, as well as the teal, which is obviously more obvious. I used about half of what works out to be slightly better than 100 gram sock blank to make these socks, and I love them. They are 70-30 Corriedale wool and nylon. The last finished object project is the thing that I am probably currently the most proud of having made. My son, Mouse, loves it. It is his Pikachu sweater. This is the Elizabeth Zimmerman percentage system. I made it a little long because he always seems to be growing, and he has really long arms. It's kind of a family trait. I get a kiss for every single row in the Pikachu heads. Now, I put them in with Intarsha, and that is 7 colors. And I had to do it twice, because the first time I tried to do it as color work, and I pulled it in too tight. It was very sad, and it had to go on a timeout. The wool, the blue wool is a German wool that I found in a thrift store. And this wool is a Shetland. And he loves it. He finished it on a Thursday night. He stole it from me. Like literally the minute I finished weaving the tails, it was out of my hands. I didn't get to wash it. I didn't get to block it. There was nothing. It was on his body. He wore it to school Friday. I could not get it away from him over the weekend. He wore it to school again on Monday. Monday afternoon, I said, honey, you're in middle school. I need that. I need to wash it. And so he allowed me to wash it. He did not allow me to take it to the guild to show and tell until he had had it about a month. And then well, actually, I don't know that he allowed me. I may have just snuck it away from him. So this is done. A little bit about my children. I have 4. They are 18, 12, 10, and 8. 2 boys and 2 girls. Boys over girls. And I have consistently, publicly, online, and in public personas, discussed them using 4 nicknames. The nicknames are Beaver, Mouse, Bunny, and Badger. And those are pretty good representations of their personality. So this is Mouse's Pikachu sweater, which he loves. Next sweater, Bunny has declared, is hers. So I am working on the design of that. That's going to be a little bit more my own design work and less somebody else's. I think having to gut through doing this Pikachu has pushed me in a more design kind of phase. So that is it for the knitting section. I'm going to pause, change out what I've got in front of me, and then begin again with spinning. Now that I've got myself resituated, I'm going to talk a little bit about spinning. So my in progress report here is that I'm going to be working on, or I'm in the process of working on a green yarn that I'm only vaguely going to talk about right now because I'm doing a full video on it. So I don't want to spoil the next video in the series. So that's what's on my wheel right now. I have decided to join the Completely Twisted and Arbitrary Spinning group on Ravelry, and I am going to do their Spin the Bin challenge. So here's the deal on the Spin the Bin. You are supposed to collect from your stash, or you can order it, I suppose, but most people seem to be leaning toward from their own stash, 12 different lots, and put them in a bin. That's this white thing you can see right here. And each lot has to be at least 2 ounces in weight. It can be more than that. Several of the people are spinning whole fleeces. But the idea is that you put it in the bin, you take a picture of everything all together, and you have the year to spin it. If you do not finish, you can opt into or out of, depending on how you want to do it, the use it or lose it option. I am opting out of that because I'm a little bit nervous about how I'm going to handle this time management wise, and I don't want to lose any of my fiber. But if you change your mind and pull something out of here and decide not to spin it, then you have to replace it with 2 new lots of fiber. There's a couple more rules, and there's also a group chat on there and group postings, and I really encourage you, even if you don't want to participate in the Spin the Bin, to go check out the lovely work that the ladies are doing over at the Completely Twisted and Arbitrary Spinning group. That's on Ravelry, and there are some really beautiful yarns being made. So check that out. I'm going to show you my bin. I'm not going to open up any of the packages. I have it all Ziploc bagged in. But if you want to see in more detail, you can check out my project page, which is on Ravelry, which is labeled Spin the Bin, and get, you know, the weights and all of that. So here's the bin. Dun, dun, dun. This is Southdown and more Southdown. This is a camel and wool blend, and so is this, and so is this. And they're just kind of screaming off stage here. This is a Lincoln long wool that I have already dyed up into this lovely scrumptious color. This is kind of a lousy cotton that I'm not really excited about spinning. One of the things I did here is I put a few carrots and a few sticks in. The idea is to dig out the stuff at the back, at the bottoms of my bins, and try to encourage myself to spin the things I've been putting off. Some of this is stuff I really am looking forward to spinning. Some of it is not. This is one of the ones I'm really looking forward to. This is yak. This is my smallest entry. This is actually only 2 ounces. But it's so soft and fluffy. Oh, it's like a cloud. This is more Lincoln long wool, and I also did this dye. We have some Cotswold that's already carded up, and then we have my other stick. This is some Afghan Hound. This is actually 11 ounces of Afghan Hound that I've kind of had languishing in my stash for a long time. And I feel bad about that because it was a very nice lady who gave me her dog's fur. And it is really soft. It's just also really smelly. So I have some ideas about how I'm going to clean that up. I got some tips from a lady in the guild. So we'll see if that works. And if it works, I'll talk about it later. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to waste your time hearing all about a technique that didn't work. Just in case. Oh, I also have the next mystery spin box ready to go. So as soon as I am done with the green wool, that is going to be what's on my machine. My friend set that up for me. It is tied up, and I have no idea what's inside it. And I'm not going to make any predictions whatsoever on what's inside it because, as you may or may not know if you saw that episode, I was wrong on everything that I thought was in the previous mystery spin. The mystery spin idea here is that in the first one, my children, in the second one, a friend of mine grabs my stash and selects a challenge for me by putting whatever, in whatever quantities they want, into this box. As long as the end weight is 4 ounces, we're good. And then I open it up on camera and prep it and spin it on camera, and everyone can see what I'm doing. And I am pleased to say that I sounded really professional about what was in the bin when I opened it on camera. In my head, I was like, what did my kids do? But it doesn't come across that way. So I can confess that now that it's done. I did, for finished objects, I did have the red wool skein, which was elder wool, but I sold it already, so I can't show it off. Not a terrible problem to have. This is the first mystery spin. This is the main skein, and this is the mini skein. And I am still deciding, although I'm leaning heavily on what I'm going to do with it. I am debating between knitting it up into the Super Eyelet Shawl by Fiona Wright, which is a pattern on Ravelry, or weaving with it. And right now I am really thinking it's going to be a shawl. And if it becomes a shawl, this will be up near the neck, and then this will cascade down. In the show notes, which there'll be a link at the bottom for, and they'll be on my blog page, I have linked the Ravelry group. I've linked the Twisted Spinning and Arbitrary group. I've linked the pattern here and the expat knitter, so you'll be able to see all of that and be able to access that really easily. So that brings us to the end of the spinning, and I'm going to pick up the floor where I threw all of these bags of wool and be right back with you. One of the reasons I'm doing these breaks is because in earlier videos I got to the end and realized my camera stopped halfway through, and sometimes I realized that right away and sometimes I didn't. So in progress for a crochet, I have a weather blanket going on. I am hideously behind on this. I think I'm still midway through March. The idea is that each row is knit in a color that represents, or I'm sorry, each row is crocheted in a color that represents the previous day's high temperature. So this is my blanket so far. And I think what I'm going to do is do 6 months and then start another and do 6 months and then crochet them together to make one big blanket, because this is, like I said, the beginning of March. And I think just a long, thin blanket would be getting a little bit unruly. This started out, again, as a stash busting kind of deal, but I rapidly found out that Wisconsin requires more of each color, especially seeing as I broke it down into 5 degrees. So each section of 5 degrees is a different color. That's the wrong side of these notes. So 20 to 24 is this brown, this blue here, and say 30 to 34 is the purple. And then this color, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm holding it too low. So let's try that again. The royal blue color is 25 to 29 degrees Fahrenheit. The purple is 30 to 34 degrees, and this blue here is 35 to 39 degrees Fahrenheit. And so each different grouping of 5 degrees is a different color. And we're going to hope that we don't have a lot of this gray, because that's 0 to 4 degrees. So that is how that's going. I have it all in this big basket. I am crocheting it with a crochet hook that my father made. This is a J. He hand turns these and then carves the hook himself. And they are wonderful to work with. He does sell them. This was a birthday present. I just love the wood patterning in here. And he started making these because my sister has MS, and she was talking about having trouble crocheting. Oops, I just dropped it. Still perfectly fine. Dropped it plenty of times. And she was talking about having trouble gripping with, your standard little metal crochet hooks. And so he just went down and started making a couple of these and brought them up for Mom and I to try, to see if we thought that this would be helpful for Jess. And we love them. He made a lot of them like this and more solid, and he made some big fat chunky ones. And then he did this one where all of the little bubbles are kind of offset and it looks really funky. And then you pick it up and it makes perfect sense. It just fits so beautifully in your hand. I don't even know if he has any of those left. But when he showed it to us, we're like, why did you do that one, Dad? And then we tried it and we were amazed. He just does amazing stuff. And that's kind of how he got into selling his work and making spindles and making yarn bowls and making the crochet hooks and all of that stuff. Was one of us said, hey, Dad, we'd like, or hey, honey, we'd like. And Dad would say, oh, I can't do that. And then he'd go downstairs for, a while and come back up and go, is this what you wanted? And invariably, yes, it was. The other project I am doing is to get through my small balls of yarn in the stash. And that is these flowers. This is the Maybelle flower. And I had a huge pile of all of these little different colors, and I just made them and threw them in a bag. So this project's been going on for, forever. I don't know. And I've linked them all together in chains. There are 100 flowers. Each chain is, I don't know, about 1.5 yards long, maybe a little bit longer. And I am starting to link them up. They're all going to be linked together with greens, just because it's a flower and a garden, and it'll be a nice, here it is. It'll be a nice afghan when it's done. So I'm going back in, and this is kind of wobbly from being this bag. Just kind of filling in those holes, and then I'm going to link all of them together. I have 10 chains of flowers. Each chain is 10 flowers long. And, it's not a real high priority project around here. It's just something that I work on when I get a little spare time. You may be wondering if I get spare time, but I do. This is a great thing for long car rides when I don't have to worry about the space in the car, because the project is kind of big. I'm advertising for someone, I don't even know who. The project is kind of big. And so if I have some space in the car, I'll take this along and work on it. But I just thought I'd show it to you, touch base with what I'm working on, so that when I show you the finished object, you're like, oh, I remember hearing about that. So we're going to talk about weaving next. The angle here has changed a little bit. That's because I wanted to show this off. This is the new loom. This month, I sold my old loom, which was a Sievert's table loom that I bought spur of the moment one year. I was at a rendezvous event where I was talking about my other life as an archaeologist, and we had done work on the site, and then this rendezvous was coming, and so we thought it would be neat if we set up a table and showed some of the people attending this reenactment event what had been found from the period that they were interested in on the site that they were actually meeting. So I was doing that, and the people next to me were selling various objects that they had worked on. And one of the things that they had for sale was this secondhand Sievert's table loom that someone had previously converted into a floor loom. And the lady was very funny. She's like, oh, it'll absolutely fit in your car. It fit in my car to get it here. And I thought about it all day long, and I eventually bought it. And I got it to my car, and it did not fit at all. I do have a small car, or I did have a small car, so it may be that. It may have simply been she was tired of it and wanted it to come home with me. It served me very well. I've made lots of projects on it. I love it. But it's usable workspace. The projects I could get was only about this big. So when a lady in my guild was talking about selling her loom, this is a catch loom. They were made in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, and now they're made in Michigan. Family company, really solid loom. Usable work surface is a full yard. I really wanted it. And we thought about it, and we thought about it, and we did some graphing of my room and some measuring tape, and convinced my husband it would in fact fit in my studio. And so he's like, well, if that's what you really want, go for it. And so I sold my Sievert's loom, and then I bought this guy. And then I remembered, as I had made both of these deals, that I had a project on the loom, on the Sievert's. And I'm in a weaving guild, and they do a lot of education projects specifically for senior citizens. And so they have this program where they receive lots of donated yarn. And then they host this class. There's fiber all over my face. Sorry. They host this class, and it's a really nominal fee, and the seniors can use the yarn that they have, or they can bring in their own. And one of the things they're finding is that most people want to bring in their own yarn so that it matches their own stuff, and they knew that they were going to get some more donated yarn, and so they said, well, why don't you ladies go and pick some yarns, and we'll do some projects. We'll make up some scarves for the homeless that'll give you some weaving practice. And so I agreed to participate in that, and I had it all loaded up, and I sold the loom out from underneath me. So I suddenly had a full day and an evening and a morning, because I took it, to finish 3 scarves, which I successfully did. Here are the scarves. They're a little bit more wobbly than I would like, but I was just practicing with some different things and trying to go really fast. So here are the 3 scarves that I got off of my loom before it became my friend's loom. And then I rearranged my entire studio around this loom. And I'm debating whether the first project on it will be for me to get to know the loom, or if it'll be a wedding present for some family members and another one for some friends. So we'll see. But, so that's my finished objects and my new toy, all in one thing. These 3 scarves are going to go off to the homeless community where the guild is based out of. And so hopefully they will do some good for someone and keep them nice and warm next winter. And I certainly got to practice some things, and I don't think I have no clue what the fibers are. I think one of them is definitely a cotton. The others feel like acrylic to me. I didn't do a burn test or anything like that, but that's just what it feels like. I don't think I'd use them together again, just because they shrunk at different rates when they were washed. But I'm really pleased with how they turned out and with my new projects. My last segment today is going to be talking about sewing. I've been doing lots and lots of mending lately, and I am toying with some ideas for some yarn project holders, and that is particularly brought on by the intarsia I did in the sweater, Pikachu sweater for Mouse. So more on that later. I am also going to be doing an 1840s, 1837, actually it says, on the pattern, era dress for my interpretive work down at Garfield Farms Museum. And I want to get this done for the Rare Breed Show, which is May 21st. I will have a link to the event page down in my notes. So this is the dress I'm going to be making. And yesterday, my friend and I did this. I think I have to scoot back to get it all in the shot. This is one of those duct tape dress forms. This is what I look like if I were armored in duct tape. If you're going to make one, don't run out of duct tape. Halfway through this, we ran out of duct tape, and my friend had to go racing to the store to do it while I watched her child, which was not incredibly easy, wrapped in duct tape. So it ended up taking about twice as long as it ordinarily would. You need lots of duct tape to do this, but I'm really excited about this, and hopefully I will be able to turn out a beautiful dress to demonstrate spinning down at the museum and maybe do some cooking for them as well, which are the two primary areas I work with them on, is their Hearthside cooking program and also spinning demonstrations. So that is what I'm working on in that area of the world, in the spinning and the sewing and the crocheting and the knitting. You have the skinny. So moving on into the since the last time we chatted section of this video. I've been sick. I've been sick for most of March. My husband refers to it as basically I went to sleep. But I caught every single virus, every single bacteria thing that was going on. Anytime anyone came anywhere near me with a cough or a cold, I got it. My family got it. They got it for a day. They were better the next day. I was down. So I feel like I'm really behind in everything. And have been slowly working to catch up on projects and try to remember where I was at the end of February before I got sick. I did do a show in February, and we had a lovely time. It was a very well organized, very well advertised show. The problem was it was February, and it was also the first beautiful weekend, and I do mean beautiful, like 60s and sunshine, and that's amazing for February in Wisconsin. So it was poorly attended. Met a lot of interesting people, but just not enough people attended. So it was kind of a disappointment to things that we had been looking forward to. But it was really great, and I'm going to insert a clip from there so you can see the booth. The people on either side of me in the video is Harmony Specialty Foods, which was selling cheese from his cows. Some of them were very normal, ordinary cheeses, like fresh cheese curds, but some of them were very strange, like an apple caraway and a blueberry. Really, really good, and very, very nice people. On the other side of me was a very nice lady, Opal Stone of Wild and Precious Prints, and she was selling these really pretty lettered signs and handmade cards and things. I'll also link her information at her Etsy store so you can find her. And I'm sorry, I'm fiddling with this crochet hook, and I just kind of threw it across the room. So, or at least across the table. In the video, you're going to see my father's woodworking. Actually, my father's in the video. You're going to see my mother-in-law's beautiful pottery. She had a pretty good day there, actually. And all of my fiber stuff and the new tablecloths I made for the booth, which I'm very pleased with how they turned out. We do need to, it was our first indoor booth. We do need to figure out more of a backdrop, more setting kinds of things. So the other main thing that we've done other than be sick and do the show since the last time we talked was we went and camped. My husband and the kids went and camped while I was doing the show. They camped in the snow. They had a great time. They had lots of adventure to tell me about when they got home. Since then, we've gone up twice, once with the kids for several days, and most recently just my husband and I this past weekend. We really love being up there, and I am looking forward to harvesting some plants for some more native dyeing up there. And I'm going to include some pictures after this of our trip so you can see the North Woods that is my inspiration. I look forward to hearing from you in the comments and via email or Ravelry chat or however you'd like to get a hold of me. Please check out my blog at MoonBound Artisanship. The link will be down below. And thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.
All right.